Hello and welcome to today's lesson, where we're looking at the Dunning-Kruger effect. If I asked you to rate your driving ability on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you score yourself? Now, maybe you're not the best driver in the world, but you probably don't believe you're the worst driver either. In fact, you probably rate yourself as being a little bit better than the average driver. Now, the problem with this is that most people also rate themselves as being a better driver than the average. And that's simply not possible for the vast majority to be better than the average. Now, this is essentially the Dunning-Kruger effect, where most people overrate their abilities, with the greatest overestimation coming from those with the lowest skill level. So the Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias characterized by overconfidence in one's ability at a particular subject. The gap between perceived ability and actual ability is typically blind to the individual concerned, but often not to others around them. Now, Dunning and Kruger based their theory on a series of experiments they ran, testing individuals on their skills in areas such as humour, grammar, and logic. They identified the bias by comparing how well the individuals actually performed with how well the individuals thought they had performed. And this gap between perceived performance and actual performance can be best shown using the Dunning-Kruger curve that you can see here. And as you can see on the x-axis, we have competence or experience in the field, and on the y-axis, we have confidence or perceived ability. Now, the Dunning-Kruger curve shows that people with zero experience know they are incompetent or unskilled. However, those with just a little experience vastly overestimate their ability. Now, as people get further experience, they become more aware of the gaps in their knowledge, and their confidence decreases until they reach the point of average competence. And beyond this point, as their experience increases, so does their confidence in their ability. So the Dunning-Kruger curve is sometimes redrawn as Mount Stupid. And the scariest thing about being on Mount Stupid is that you won't even realize you're there. Now, an important point to realize about the Dunning-Kruger effect is that it doesn't just happen to some people. It happens to all of us. So that means you, me, your boss, it happens to everyone. Now, the opposite of the Dunning-Kruger effect is imposter syndrome. And with imposter syndrome, you have high ability, but believe your actual ability is very low. So in a nutshell, while your ability is high, you feel like a fraud or believe that you are faking competence in some way. Now, while people on Mount Stupid are unjustifiedly overconfident, people suffering from imposter syndrome will be unjustifiedly underconfident. They may believe that the success they have had to date is through luck rather than hard work and judgment. So another way to understand the various points on the curve is via this diagram. And again, remember that everybody goes through this, not just some people. So finally, one thing to be aware of is that the only people who tend to underestimate their abilities are those that actually are the most competent and the most experienced. And this goes by a name. It's often called the burden of experience. So what's causing the Dunning-Kruger effect? Well, there's two causes behind it. The first is ego, meaning nobody enjoys thinking that they're below average at a task, so we tend to overestimate our abilities. And secondly, we have lack of knowledge. So at the left-hand side of the curve, we don't have enough experience to even realize that we're not very good at something. In effect, we're so incompetent that we don't even understand how incapable we are. It turns out that you actually need a little bit of skill in an area to be able to judge how skilled you are in that area. Now, in 1995, a man was amazed and shocked after he was arrested for robbing a bank in broad daylight. Why? Well, he had previously discovered that lemon juice was a crucial ingredient in making invisible ink. So he had covered his face in lemon juice in the mistaken belief that he would be invisible. Upon discovering this incident, the researchers Dunning-Kruger and David Dunning ran a series of experiments to examine the link between perceived ability and actual ability, and that is how the Dunning-Kruger effect came about. So let's take a look at some examples of Dunning-Kruger in the workplace. So firstly, poor performance. So here you might have a team member who believes they are exceptionally skilled and a super high performer within their current role, who is surprised, shocked even, and angry to discover you think otherwise during their performance appraisal. Secondly, we might have poor decisions made by new team members. So a new team member or maybe a new graduate might be overconfident in their assessment of a situation. This may cause them to select an imperfect solution to a problem, or it might cause them to underestimate how long a task is going to take to complete. So essentially what we're saying here is their lack of experience causes them to be utterly unaware of all the future issues which might block their progress. And thirdly, we have poor decisions from senior leaders. Now, senior leaders might make poor decisions because they are so far removed from the detail and practicalities of how things work. They may believe things are simpler than they are. This, combined with the tendency for senior leaders to be very confident, may cause them to commit to unrealistic projects or unrealistic targets. So what should you do if you encounter the Dunning-Kruger effect in the workplace? Well, firstly, nobody likes to be shot down in flames and told that what they thought was a brilliant idea is in fact a terrible idea. People are social animals, and so they don't like to be exposed as simply wrong. So the best way to handle people when you realize they're on Mount Stupid is to help them understand that things are in fact a little bit more complicated than they first thought through their own reasoning. So we're going to look at two approaches, one for use with people you manage and the other for use with people who manage you. So firstly, coaching. So if you're managing team members, then you can adopt a coaching style to give them feedback on their ideas and work progress. Now, this style shouldn't be critical, but should help them to explore potential issues with their ideas. And over time, using this approach, team members should develop not just a deeper understanding of typical issues that might arise, they'll also develop a set of tools and strategies for analysing situations for potential problems that might occur. So the second is managing up, and the aim here is the same as for the staff you manage. You want your superiors to realise for themselves that their initial ideas may be more complex than they originally imagined. Now, because you don't have line management responsibility for them, you can't coach them formally. So the next best thing you can do is to try to manage them by managing up. And that's going to involve anticipating the needs of your boss, communicating regularly with your boss to keep them better informed so they can make better decisions, having conversations with other key players to ensure they have the necessary background information to make better decisions, and finally being seen as a positive source of help and a key input into decision making. So in summary, the Dunning-Kruger effect is something that exists to a lesser or greater extent within all of us. It's a cognitive bias characterized by overconfidence, and the effect is at its most visible and dangerous in people with just a little experience of something who are unrealistically overconfident. So that's it for this lesson. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.